I'm sure everyone knows you, but if they don't, tell them a little bit about who you are. Then we'll talk about why we're having this conversation, all the things, but just do like a quick little intro for us.
Absolutely. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Eliza. Hi. So I am a business coach and mastermind mentor. I work with incredible coaches, creatives, and consultants who are creating some version of scalable freedom for themselves in their businesses. Obviously, for me, in sharing that I'm a mastermind mentor, I have a program called the Mastermind Model. So I very much teach building a mastermind business model alongside obviously working with clients in all sorts of different business types and models and industries. That is a particular area of specialism, and I'm blinking a lot because I've got an eyelash in my eye just as I'm starting talking, which is well timed. So that is the work that I do. You and I have been working together for about 4 years now. I don't know our
Yeah.
exact date.
Yeah.
But that's my relationship to Lace as well. When Lace and I started working together, I was working one-to-one in a one-to-one model. And I transitioned into my first mastermind, which we had no idea would become 3 and really kind of build this
Yeah.
like life of its own in a way that I think neither of us had fully seen like work so specifically before. So yeah, that's a bit of context.
So good. All right. Sorry for my distraction. You guys our Zoom is not streaming into our Facebook group. So we had to like do this workaround. And I was like trying to figure out how I can still see Ellie and see comments. And I have officially figured it out, but it took a second.
You're
But hey,
in.
Michelle. Hey, Lisa. Hey,
Yeah.
Brittany.
Hey, Brittany.
Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here with us. I know this isn't our like normal time at all. This is like quite early for everyone. So
I
anyway,
so
thank you for being here.
appreciate
Well, I
it.
guess except Elisa, it's not early for you, but
Any
um,
later and I would have turned into a pumpkin my time zone. So I really appreciate it.
we're just making it work. So anyway, reminder too, if you're here, we always do giveaway. So giveaway today is $100 gift card. So any comment, you're entered to win. And so basically what we wanted to talk about today are like best practices, best and worst ways to run a mastermind, and not in a way of like hating on anything specifically, but I do think that in our industry, it's like, yes, there's no perfect way to do everything. I feel like I'm such a proponent of that, but I also feel like that doesn't mean there's not like best practices or right ways to think about things or delivery or like ways to be in integrity, ways to serve fully. And I think there's such a line with that. You know what I mean? Where like, yes, like the fun of having your own business is getting to do whatever you want and all of those things. And also you're still delivering a service, serving people. There's still a way to go about this really thoughtfully and intentionally. And I think both like are important and can live together. And I think so often our industry makes it one or the other, you know?
100%. And I think that it's so important that we have these conversations around best practice. And I know you bring so many of them to this group because ultimately, like, if we're not having these conversations, like standards are going to slip. And
Yeah.
we have seen such a variation of different masterminds in the industry over the years. And what I see is like the biggest problem with that is that people come in thinking that they can start a mastermind and they look to, people that they see doing it successfully and go, oh, all I need to do is X, Y, or Z thing, and I'm going to create this amazing, successful mastermind. But actually, that's just not the way to do it. You're not seeing behind the scenes. A lot of masterminds that you're seeing aren't necessarily masterminds that are getting really good client results, that are getting really good retention rates and all of those things. So I think it is really important that we kind of speak to some of that. I was going to say call some of it out, which isn't really it,
Yeah.
but just speak to what's required.
But I think you just made a really good point, which is like, just because you see a mastermind sell well, it doesn't mean you see like how it resells or what the feedback is or what the results are or what all of the really important things about it are. And so I think
Yes.
that could be like a good format for us to talk about, and like what are like best practices around like definitely the marketing and selling, but then also the running, because both things matter so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like so not what we can always tell on the front end, or quite honestly, even when you're in it, sometimes it's not like everybody that's in one is like, hey, like, does this part feel good to you or does this not feel good to you? So I think it's just like remembering that you're not ever getting the full picture just by doing that. And so you really do have to be like conscientious of that in your own space.
Yes, I so agree with that.
Oh, that's fun. Elisa said how fitting that we're talking about masterminds and her mastermind sister is here. Oh, that's cute. I love that, guys.
So good.
Okay, so let's start with like the selling and marketing component, or we could start with marketing and then go to selling. But let's start with worst, because I always feel like that's fun and spicy. So worst things in terms of selling a mastermind that you've seen or that come up for you.
Okay, so going to elaborate on that first point that I shared previously, which is what I find is that people tend to look externally when they're selling their mastermind. And honestly, you know, for anyone that's listening, you've probably seen this occur, or maybe you've experienced this yourself with offers that aren't just masterminds, where you go, okay, I'm going to sell in this experience. What do I need to do here? And we go, right, let's look at the other people in the industry that are selling masterminds really well. And we go across and we look and we try and like work out what it is that they're doing that's making them sell their mastermind really effectively. And we start taking some of that data based on what we're seeing of, oh, they're selling it really effectively because they're offering this particular thing, or, oh, they're selling it really effectively because they're using this particular marketing.
Right.
But rarely is that ever going to work for you and your business, even if you're looking to emulate someone who has a really similar model to you. The best masterminds that sell, and I say this having worked with clients who have, like so many clients who have sold out their masterminds, is that if you start by getting so clear on the problem that you're helping your ideal client to solve, because even though you're selling in a community experience, you're selling in high-level support from yourself and other people, you're still ultimately selling a problem that you're helping people to solve. And if we don't speak to that and devise a mastermind experience built around solving that problem, people just aren't going to buy. And so the key thing that we need to do is, instead of going really macro in how we plan on selling, and really I'm kind of tying in like the marketing piece as well here, like how we're marketing it, how we're selling it, we need to actually go micro and look at who is our ideal client, at what point in our ascension ladder are they purchasing this mastermind, what's the key problem that they're experiencing at this point, and then what can my mastermind do to actually help them solve. And then to take this a step further, the other thing that I support my clients with a whole bunch, and again is like the thing to create a really unique mastermind, is looking at what can you leverage as your point of difference in your mastermind. So instead of looking at other masterminds and going, okay, this is something that they're doing, I'm going to kind of copy that whole strategy over there, how can you look to create something that is really unique and a really big part of what you yourself have specialism in or expertise in, or is really going to support your clients, and leverage that, especially as the market grows and expands. It's those really unique things, like micro niching essentially, that's going to really help you to sell it. So I would say that's like the biggest thing, is going micro instead of macro, and looking at who are you actually selling to, rather than creating an experience or trying to create an experience based on what other people who look successful in the industry are doing.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I have so much to say on that. But I want to answer Brittany's question. She said, is there a big difference between mastermind programs and monthly membership offerings? I mean, who fucking knows is my answer to that. I'm teasing a little bit, but like, I think that it depends, like, again, because there's no like standard in our industry. And so I think it gets really hard. I think there are some monthly membership offerings that are basically masterminds and are at the value of that for less. And I think there are some masterminds that get positioned as a mastermind and are basically charging a high price and are at a monthly membership. For me, I think the difference, and Ellie, you can obviously speak to this fully too, but for me, I think the difference is when I think about like a membership, I think about it as more of content based. And when I think about a mastermind, I think it as more of like coaching and like wrapped support, kind of, you know what I mean? So it's like the coach, and there's probably like there is content as part of it, but like the hands-on support you get is really like the level that you're paying for there. But again, like I think there are memberships that have that level of support, and I think there are masterminds that don't.
Yeah, I so agree with that. And I think that this is where it's looking at like, what is your ideal client's perception of that type of offer? So I know, for example, for my ideal client, they view a mastermind as something that is higher level, like there's a perception around that. If I were to use the term membership, I would be using it to articulate a lower cost experience. And again, as well, we've got to be so careful around like cannibalizing the different offers in our ladder. We'd want to use a membership as something that perhaps was lower ticket, lower tier, supported people at that, particular level. And then a mastermind is something that's got that higher touch component as well.
Totally. Michelle said, curious if you can give an example of the micro niching that you're talking about, Ellie.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, so I'll give a couple of examples of clients that I supported in the Mastermind Model earlier this year. So one really great example is, and I'll use their names because they are testimonials, and I actually spoke to them on my podcast recently, Jess and Sam, who created this mastermind called the Slow Mastermind. And they basically created like this entire movement around slow business and what slow business means for a very specific type of woman, a mother who is wanting to create a sustainable business, but is not in a season where she has a lot of time or ability to hustle and truly doesn't want to. And they leveraged their strengths, the two of them, of being like really somatic and a psychologist as well as a strategist, to combine both their strategy expertise and like the nervous system healing and regulation to create something that is truly unique in having both of those components. So that's a really good example of, again, taking like micro niche, leveraging their strengths, really creating a movement out of that. Another example, I'm kind of looking at like, which one do I take this? I've got another client who she very much specializes in communications and visibility. And so that is something that she leans into really heavily in her mastermind experience. She does a lot of strategy and spirituality, but her whole thing is around visibility. So she has extra components within her mastermind where she really supports people around that piece. And so again, it's basically just looking at like, what are the key things that I am known for within my industry that make me truly stand out, that I can leverage, that creates differentiation? Because when we create that differentiation, that's when people are going to purchase your mastermind over other people's.
Totally. And I think what's important to say there is like, when we're talking about like niching down more, being so specific about it, it doesn't mean it has to be something that's like no one's ever thought of or something like that, right? Like Ellie basically said, helping mothers run, sustainable businesses and visibility. Like those are such obvious things in our space, that's just positioning it in a really specific way. And I think that's where people get stuck, is because they hear something like that and they're like, oh my God, I'd have to think of something nobody's ever thought of before, nobody's ever done it. It's really not that. It's just like having a smart marketing spin on it and making sure it really targets like a very specific person instead of just everyone.
100% agree. Something else.
Sorry, hi,
I was just
Katie.
going to say something else around the selling piece that I wanted to add is just like a complete and utter, like, would never recommend doing this, is actually not selling and talking about your mastermind at all. Like having a $15,000 offer, for example, that's through a Thrivecart link where it's like, there's going to be 10 people and we're going to run calls and you'll get coaching support. It's like, that's not good enough. Like, it's just not good enough.
Yeah.
And if we're going to advocate for our industry, I think it's really important that we advocate for that. Like, it's just not enough to be asking people to part with money like that and not sharing and highlighting how they're going to get supported. And I know your thoughts on this, Lace. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not good enough. And so, when we're talking best practice, and obviously as someone who's very much like leading and speaking in this particular space, I feel so strongly about this, that we need to be communicating and articulating really clearly with our clients how we're supporting them in that space. And honestly, we're going to talk about, I know, delivery soon, and I'll probably say this 100 more times, but that communication piece is so, so important. And in fact, the more clearly we communicate up front, the better the experience is going to be, the better the retention is going to be, the better the experience your clients are going to have, the happier they're going to be in the space, the more congruent they're going to feel when they come into the space based on the marketing that they've received. And so really what that requires is like truly fleshing out your offer and knowing what that looks like before you start selling it. Give yourself that extra week, like flesh out what that looks like. It's not going to require that much, but it's actually going to help you so much in your selling as well.
Well, I'll say the thing that I don't know, maybe you shouldn't say publicly about that. But to me, when people are doing that, it's so they don't ever have to take accountability or responsibility. Like, I think it's very manipulative marketing, not just in terms of like the fact that it's like, ooh, come behind the scenes. But I think what it really is because then if someone has a complaint, it's like, well, we never even said that. That was never promised. That's your assumption. It's like this personal responsibility to like this totally toxic level. And I think it's just actually complete lack of responsibility in terms of the coach, and is super intentional and manipulative, so that it's from a place of like, I will never have to take responsibility if you're not happy here, versus if I give you a whole fucking sales page and I say a bunch of shit, I have to take responsibility for delivering on that. And I think that like our industry has gotten to this point where like everyone's like, how can I run a business without any of the responsibility of having a business? And that's what harms our space so much. Another thing on the note of communication and selling that I really see that I think people get wrong is not being transparent if there's going to be support coaches in the program. Like, I have no thing with support coaches. I think they're so useful, so helpful. I would say a lot of my clients use them in their containers. And I think you have to be so upfront about that. Like, I've heard of so many experiences of people being like, well, I got into this program because I thought I was getting coached by this person. And actually they only show up to like one call and it's mostly other people. And I think that is so unfair too, because typically like we think we're paying a price point because of a certain connection we have or a certain person we want support from. And then to not get that totally changes the value of the mastermind overall.
100%. And exclusivity as well, right? Like, I had a conversation with a client the other day who was telling me that she signed up to a mastermind experience. She thought it was going to be, an intimate mastermind, and there are 150 people in the program.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Right. And so could you imagine like not sharing that? So
Right.
again, you don't need to give exact numbers. Like, you might be like, I don't know, during the sales process. Obviously that's totally okay. But maybe it's like, we cap it at X, or, it'll be between X and Y number.
Or like, you'll be on a call with no more than X people or something.
Exactly. I found like the sweet spot for calls. And so I always talk about that, like through literally trial and error. I found like the sweet spot for calls, and I talk about what that looks like. And so articulating those things, it actually creates so much safety for your client. And all of these things, I think this is obviously probably so obvious, but this is not Lacey and I being like industry martyrs, but rather these things actually help you get better results. Like, these are the things that sell out your masterminds. These are the things that, in my business, we have 60 to 80% retention rate in our masterminds, which I know is really, really rare. And Lacey sees inside my business and she knows why that is. And it's like the level of attention and care that we put in our masterminds, and like the consideration that we have every step of the way. I can see one of my incredible past mastermind clients who's here with us right now. And so I think, that's worth noting. It's like, these are things that really help you sell more and
Yeah.
retain clients?
Well, I think that, I mean, this, not to derail the conversation, but because
Go
now I
on.
can't not say this, because it's in my head, is I think what our space has done sort of is like we've, I think, created a really important message around how business is easier than you think it is, and things can be really easeful. And we can, like, I love, what you're saying about Sam and Jess and like the slow business and stuff. Like, I think all of that messaging is so wildly important for women, especially high performers who are so willing to like burn out and all of that stuff. But where we've gotten that confused then is on thinking that delivery doesn't still require excellence or doesn't still require being fully present and showing up. Like, I think we've gotten to this almost point of like thinking like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be easy, so anything that would require like really delivering or something, like, that's not it. And I think that message has just gotten so confused. And like, the truth is, like, the way you're going to build a sustainable business that has ease is to deliver excellence. Like, that is what creates ease.
This is why I talk so much about retention and
Yeah.
like retention strategy. And a really big part of what I teach is like selling to your one-to-one clients. I saw your question there, Eliza. We'll come back to that in a moment. Like selling to one-to-one clients or like selling to clients to retain them in your mastermind, because I think this is something that very few people truly do and do properly as well. And it's wild to me because ultimately, like, that lifetime customer value is so key, like A, so key, and B, your mastermind experiences grow and evolve significantly when you're working with those clients longer term. And so I think that, we have this really amazing opportunity where when we really focus on a lot of this messaging, a lot of this sales strategy, this is when we retain our best clients. Are you struggling to see comments?
Yeah, I can't see them for some reason. So let me try to. Oh my
I'm
gosh!
just
And of
doing it on
course,
my
Facebook isn't logged in on my phone, and I don't know my login.
phone. Do you want me to be in charge? I
Yes,
can do
it's
it.
on you. It's all
Yeah, I
you.
can do it.
I see
Okay,
a
Brittany
couple,
asked
but you mentioned
before.
like Elisa had a comment and stuff, and I didn't see any of that. So
Yes. Okay. So Lisa said leveraging your strengths and uniqueness is so key. Michelle, totally agree with masterminds being more high touch versus membership communities being more ongoing support. That's definitely what my experience and what I've looked for when joining both. Love the business offer idea. So valuable. Hey, Katie, wonder at which point you'd recommend starting a mastermind. I'm currently working with people one-to-one. So that's
okay,
Elisa's
so helpful. Okay,
comment.
I think I'm seeing the most current ones, but I just can't see the back ones, no matter what I
Okay.
seem to click on. So perfect.
Gotcha. That is coming through thick and fast. Um,
Okay, so currently one-on-one, when to move to mastermind. Okay, go ahead.
So my recommendation there, Elisa, is when you're it might be that like one of a couple of things happens. First of all, you've got a desire moving to a mastermind, right? Like, that's a very obvious one. But you might decide that you want to stay one-to-one. You might want to choose a partnership model. Obviously, Lacey and I both have very different models. And so our view is very much like, choose the model that serves and supports you. If you're feeling called to a mastermind model, one or a couple of things might happen. You might get to a point where you're like, I'm so burnt out because I am doing so much one-to-one and it doesn't feel like this is sustainable and I want to increase my income and I feel like I can't. You might get to a point where you have a wait list and you feel like you can't sustain that wait list in the way that you want to. You might get to a point where you feel like you're repeating yourself all day, every day, and you're like, actually, my clients would benefit so much more from being in a mastermind experience together than they would just me one-to-one. You might be dreaming of having more freedom in your life. I know that sounds like very cliche, but it's true. So I don't say to my clients, you have to be sold out or you have to have a significant wait list, because I just don't believe that to be true. But I think having like one or a few of those in some way starting to eat at you a little bit, they're going to be signs that it's time to transition across into a mastermind experience. So for me, as an example, I was fully booked with a wait list. working with an obscene amount of clients. I think I had like 27 clients before I transitioned into a mastermind. Knew that I really wanted to transition, knew that I didn't want to coach all day, every day on calls, found myself repeating myself constantly and was like, there's got to be a better way here based on the clients I'm working with. And then transitioned into a mastermind from there and built something where I was like, I can only do this if I can get behind the fact that this experience is going to be better than how I'm currently serving my clients in one-to-one. And so that's something I talk about a lot in the mastermind model, is like truly creating an offer that you back more than one-to-one and getting behind that and the mindset around that. And then once you've done all of those things, like you can transition across.
Yeah, I agree with Ellie. I think the thing that most people like, it's okay. It's totally fair to move to it if you just want to. But I also think the thing that most people miss is they try to expand a lot of capacity before they've filled current capacity. And I think that's always something to think about too, because the one trade, not even trade off, I don't know how to say it, but like the one thing to consider is with a mastermind, you do need a certain amount of people in to fill it at one time to make a mastermind. And so if you're like, well, I'm not already filling this, and then you open up more capacity over here, plus you now have the added pressure of filling it, I think that that can be stressful for some people. But also on the flip side of that, I think maybe you're not filling your current capacity because that model doesn't feel most aligned to you and you're kind of in resistance there. And so like there is a capacity thing that I think from a practical lens we always want to consider, but then sometimes there's a mindset thing of like, I'm not filling my capacity because this isn't actually how I want to serve. So I think there's like two pieces to that.
I so agree with that.
Okay, so let's talk about best practices running a mastermind, because obviously I think that's sort of like the core of what we're talking about here in many ways. I know there's like a million and they're all in mastermind models, so you don't need to like give us every bit of it, but I would love to maybe again start with kind of like worse, like what are some of the things you see that are really like not working, and then how can we make those better?
Yeah, I think the overarching theme that is really cool to play with here is, there's been a really big conversation recently in our industry around having self-led clients and what that means. And what I think is really interesting in that conversation is that, like anything, it can kind of skew too far one way or another. And the thing that I think is most important is to really identify what you believe are your responsibilities as coach and facilitator of a mastermind, and then make it your job to uphold those responsibilities as somebody who is serving your clients. So when I have people start in my masterminds, I always speak to that. I'm like, I see my job as being twofold. Like, one, it's your coach, your personal coach as part of this mastermind. And two, it's as facilitator of this experience. And so if you think about holding space as facilitator of a mastermind plus being a coach, what are your responsibilities within that? How do you decide you're going to uphold those responsibilities? And it might even be worth like playing with that, jotting it out, listing them out, just having a think about those things, because it's going to help you get really clear on how you want to show up for your experience. So then based on that, we touched on this before, but having really clear communications. So we are so big on our onboarding experience. What we find is that when you're coming into a mastermind experience, I always anticipate that it's a steep learning curve is the wrong word, but it's going to be a new experience for everyone that's coming in. And so how can you support them in that journey? I'm sure you have so many thoughts on this, Lace. It's like from a therapy perspective about, like when we're coming in as humans to a new experience, everything that comes with that. And how can we really like support our clients so that they are aware of exactly how they can maximize the experience. So something a client was saying to me the other day, she was like, after I did the mastermind model, I was like, I now believe in like over communicate. Like I never really thought about that so much. And she was like, when I went through all of your systems, I was like, oh, you guys just communicate everything and you do it like a million times. And truly, that's how I think we actually avoid a lot of issues that people experience in masterminds, because we're so clear. And so we just make such a big deal of like, these are the ways you can access us. Are you aware of them? Like, can we support you? Like, do you know about this? Do you not? And again, with this like overarching self-led conversation, I think there's actually a bit of bullshit in that, where it's like, oh, I'm going to tell people once how they can use me and I'm going to share with them the boundaries and then they're on their own and they know how. And it's like, it just doesn't work like that. Like, we're humans who are learning and coming into something new. Like, we really need to meet our clients halfway to support them. So the biggest thing with that delivery piece is really bringing people in and setting them up on their journey and supporting them, and looking at like what support looks like every step of the way. So I always think about it through the lens of, if I was a customer in this experience, would I feel like I'm personally seen? Would I feel like I'm somebody who is like being witnessed in my own unique business, which obviously is the case in my model being business, like all of those things. And sometimes that means adding in systems around checking in on someone if you haven't heard from them for 2 weeks, or like following up with somebody who, you know, maybe shared something and then dropped off. Like, those things are actually important. And I think that the industry sometimes tells us otherwise, and it's just not true. So that's the biggest thing. And I feel like you'll probably have a million things within that you want to dissect.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. Michelle said, love that y'all are bringing the real talk on this Tuesday morning or night. Hi, Emma
Right, we'll go
Louise.
there.
Yeah, I think you're even giving a little more grace than I would by saying that sometimes people will tell them once what their boundaries are and then expect them to uphold it. I think sometimes people just get so used to like, well, this is how I do it. And they expect everyone to come in knowing that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Right.
Yes.
And then when someone like crosses a boundary that they didn't even necessarily outwardly state, they're like so quick to get frustrated. Or, you know, I also think this is why people sometimes are like, I hate running masterminds. And it's like, well, it's probably because you think a lot of people are running over your boundaries, but actually you're just not clearly communicating them. I mean, I think that's true across any program, one-on-one too, same thing. But I really think like if you think about the incredible vast range in our industry, I think I said in the email for this, like the wild, wild west, right? Like this person might have been in another mastermind that was run entirely differently in every way, shape, and form. And so they show up to this one being like, oh, I'm assuming it's like that. And then you think they're like a difficult client or something. And it's really just like they had an entirely different set of experiences and expectations. So I just think that part is so important. And that it also can't change based on how the person's running it is feeling. I think I've heard that a lot too, where it's like sometimes that person's super engaged and they're like, reach out to me anytime. And then sometimes they're like, why are you messaging me? Kind of boundary. Yeah. And it's like, I think that like consistency and clarity is just so key. And it sounds so obvious, but like it's still pretty big. Got banned from loving things. Oh, Michelle, you always get banned from the hearts. They'll resurface hopefully. Yeah, Brittany said, I really appreciate a thoughtful follow-up. It changes your whole experience. So true. Michelle said, when I worked with hundreds of the student orgs at UVA, we had to over communicate all the time in order to even get them to see the info one time. And doing this helped them have a more positive experience and get the actual resources and support they needed. Totally. And again, I think to Ellie's point, like there's something in our industry that says like, it is wrong if you have to do that. And I just think that that's what we have to push back against of like, actually, this is how humans work in any capacity. And it's kind of like the whole frame of thinking like, oh, I just tell a client what to do and they go do it. And if they need to be told more than once, it's a problem. And it's like, do you know how brains work at all in any way, shape, or form, right?
This isn't a cult.
So totally. I think that's such a big piece of running it. And I also think it's a big piece of knowing from a coach perspective, if you're delivering, because if you have really clear expectations and you can state those, then like to your point of like almost having like the roles, you know if you're showing up for your role or not. If you don't define those expectations, you don't actually know if you're doing your job.
Exactly. I always say to my business manager, Niv, like I marvel now being 4 years into running masterminds, how like this might sound like a lot that we're speaking through, but truly the setup, onboarding, implementation process of masterminds that we run these days. And I didn't say this before, but up until very recently, I was running 3 masterminds at a time. I only pulled back just season of life that I'm in. Like that worked very, very well within the business. You know, we have had zero issues running that model for the last like 2 years. And, you know, the reason that all of this works so well and still feels really congruent for me as somebody who wants that freedom-based business, but also wants a business that really serves and supports to actually get really good client results, is that we just have so many systems in place for this.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that's like, you know, in the mastermind model, it's just like delivery templates and like all the checklists and all the things, because those are the things that help you create an experience like this. As something I've been talking about a lot with clients lately is how it's these systems that actually stop the 3 a.m. thoughts, you know, the 3 a.m. thoughts of like, is this person having a good experience right now in the mastermind? Is this person getting what they signed up for specifically when they told me they wanted X? You know, insert other things here. Like if you've got systems and processes where you know you're always showing up and serving all of those people in a very specific, consistent way, you don't need to have those 3 a.m. thoughts. You know that you're always going to be showing up to the best of your ability and getting consistent feedback so that you can tweak and change. Like, you can truly create a mastermind where you don't need to be worried about those things. And I find that a lot of the time, whether it be because of like sister wounds or fear of holding space for groups or whatever it is, that our mindset stuff is actually the thing that's prohibiting us from having and creating a really great delivery experience.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, this is like why you built the mastermind model, obviously, but it's also like treating it with the seriousness that it deserves. Like to me, you know, obviously different price points, different masterminds, but like if somebody's paying you $10,000 or something to be in a mastermind, like that deserves systems to back that up. That deserves follow up. That deserves, you know, all of those things that we're talking about here in terms of like creating a great experience. And I think that our industry just has gotten so kind of like blasé about that almost. You know what I mean? And
Totally.
I think just seeing it for what it is, like that is such a big investment for most people. It is so meaningful to them. It is so important to them. And I think just being able to be like, I'm going to match that for you. Like I'm going to match your level of investment with a level of service that truly fits that. And like that is just good business. Like that shouldn't be anything revolutionary that I'm saying, but I think it kind of is.
I always think about how in any experience that a client comes into with us, like the studies show that we as clients will remember our first experience. So that initial first impression, we will remember some sort of climatic experience within it, whether it's like positive or negative, and we'll remember the end.
Yeah.
And so I'm always thinking about that. It's like, what's the climatic experience that, you know, your client's experiencing? For example, how you supported them through that big launch that they were experiencing, or how when they were like so close to reaching their goal, but something really shitty happened for them, how you were like there, you know, whatever. The start is obviously like how they felt when they were coming into the experience, how supported they felt. And the end is how you closed out with them, how you re-invited them, how you know, transitioned and gave them the opportunity to come on, stay, or like closed out and farewelled them. Like those things are so key. And I think the reason a lot of people have had bad experiences in masterminds is because we're not thinking enough about how we can create a really solid, memorable experience for our clients.
Totally. Michelle said, I feel like this is a symptom of the fact that a lot of people haphazardly build a mastermind as a scaling tactic after one-on-one rather than from a desire to support people in this way. No data to back this, but my guess is someone who intentionally wants to create this experience will also want to include all of these elements y'all are talking about. Yeah, totally. I think it's like, oh, does this just like solve a problem in my business very quickly for me? And so I throw it together very quickly. Or is it like, I want to serve people in this way. What is the best way to do that? I fully agree with that, Michelle. I can't. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to add to that, Lace. I think like the other thing that I see is because a mastermind is a really great scaling offer, people view it as like, oh, this is a quick way for me to make really
Yeah.
great money.
Yeah.
And it's just so short-sighted to think about
Yeah.
it in that way, because if you're thinking about it in terms of like, oh, it's a great way for me to make money over the next 5 years in my business, then all it takes is a few like strategic tweaks to actually really give a shit about it, and then it's going to support you longer. So yeah, I so hear that, Michelle.
And I think that's just true across the board too. Like I was talking to a client recently about a course that she's creating, and she was kind of torn on like, do I just get it out quite quickly because her audience is quite warm and ready for this, or do I, like really like wait on it? And I was basically saying to her, like, you build the course that you're going to sell for the next 3+ years. Don't build the course like that you're going to get out in the next 3 weeks. Like that's such a difference. And she was like, yeah, that's right on. Like, even if they're waiting, like they will wait for the course that like has that like level of excellence versus like that, like, okay, you wanted something, here, I made it for you kind of vibe, right?
100% agree with that.
Elisa said, I can't tell you how much I love this conversation. Currently reworking my one-on-one experience because of everything you're talking about. It's actually so much fun to get excellent service and have those super supportive systems in place. Totally. And like Ellie said, it's not like about being a martyr. It's like so good for you. It's like how you know your clients are happy and re-signing and you're in integrity, and that you don't have to wake up at 3 a.m. being like, oh shit, I said I was going to do a thing I didn't do.
Literally that. Yeah.
Michelle said there's no better way to disgruntle a large group of people in a small bit of time than creating a mastermind from just the intention of making more money without wanting to serve. Yeah, totally.
100% agree with that.
I think too, like, I guess what I want to say is like how you were talking about beginning, middle, end. I think too, like people can feel other people's experience in it too, right? Yes. So like, what did you call it? Like something. What was the middle moment called?
Like the climatic.
Yeah. A climatic experience. Like if someone else is having a terrible experience in it, that could potentially end up being your climatic experience too. You're like, well, that wasn't me, but oh, that was some fucked up shit there, or whatever. And so I think that's important to remember too, that it's like, it really is so important because it's not even just you and that person anymore. It's like them and everyone else too.
And I think this is where a lot of people get really afraid. And again, the mindset piece comes up in masterminds, but like remembering that it's an experience like any other in business where you're a business owner and you handle it, and actually really leaning in or knowing, the processes and ways to navigate things. I had a like incredible woman in business, multi-7-figure business owner, joined the last round. And she was like, I joined because I just wanted to like hear from you around how to have those difficult conversations. Like that was the reason why I joined this experience. And I was like, that's amazing, because I know, the nervous system relief in having those tools at your disposal to have those difficult conversations. And, something that I share a lot is, it doesn't, like in running a mastermind, it's not, oh, if you do all of these things, you're never going to experience difficult moments. That's not the case, because like you mentioned, Lace, like humans, like we're going to have things that come up. What it means is that you're going to have the tools and the capacity to navigate those situations in the ways that you need to. And sometimes those difficult conversations or hard moments or client triggers or whatever it is that come up can actually be really healing for your clients as well, or can be part of that supportive experience. And so having the tools, having the opportunity to really lean into those things and, do the work both on like self-reflection that's required for you to show up as a facilitator and coach in that situation, and also the boss that can help move your client through something, is everything, and is the difference between somebody who's fucking around with a mastermind one time and a person who is actually running a business that is building to multi 6 and 7 figures and going to be a successful mastermind experience.
Totally. Elisa said, I don't know if everyone is this way, but I noticed the more I feel like so freaking excited about my offer and tweak it and grow the support, the easier it is to sell. Totally. I mean, I think like that's almost like what your premise is, I think, with the mastermind model in some ways, Ellie, right? Where it's like, if you feel really good about what you're delivering, the ease that comes in selling it is so different.
I just had a woman who signed up last week, and she sent me a message in Kajabi like all of 36 hours ago. And she was like, oh my God, I just went through the market research process. And she was like, I'm literally crying because I've had 89 responses. I've done this like really curated market research process using, what you've shared. And I cannot believe the responses I've got. I literally feel like I've won the lottery. These were her words. I feel like I've won the lottery because I've got all this data that I've wanted to find ways to uncover for years. I've got this data. I feel like I just have a gold mine for everything that I get to do next in the business. And it's that exact thing. She's just like got all this information where she's going to be able to create something, use that, market with that. And so, yeah, like just following that strategy, having that information like supports you so much to create something exceptional.
So much. Okay, so we're kind of running out of time here, so we'll maybe wrap. But I would love for you to just tell them about Mastermind Model. I know we're kind of cutting it close here. What is cart close tomorrow? So,
Well, yeah, Thursday my time, so it's Tuesday night
it's
here
only
right
Tuesday.
now.
I was thinking it was
Yeah.
Wednesday. Yeah. Okay, we got
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, so there's time. And if you are watching this replay a couple of days later, send me a DM on Instagram, Ellie Swift. I already said to Lace I would sneak in lit up community members over the coming days because our first live call is not till next week. So to share a little bit more about the Mastermind Model. So this is a program that I created for you if you're one of two humans. The first is that you're looking to start a mastermind. The second is that you're looking to scale your existing mastermind. So maybe you are wanting to look at how you can better the experience, how you can scale it for more profitability for yourself, whatever it is, you're one of those two humans. And the way that I support you is I help teach you how to create, sell, and deliver your mastermind. So I built this out as like a full one-stop shop for masterminds. The short version is that I said to Lacey one day, I just feel like no one's doing this. And she was like, duh, that's because you've created this model and you're supposed to. And I was like, well, no shit, that's a bit obvious. So, that's the purpose of this. There's nothing else like it in the market that really takes you through this whole process. And I think like the price point is basically the equivalent of like half a human in the mastermind, and it will save you like so many hours of time I couldn't even tell you at this point. And having launched it earlier this year, I say all of those things knowing that we've proven that with incredible testimonials already from clients who have done everything from, first 5-figure launches through to $250,000 in 3 months from this program. So it's ellieswift.com/model. If you want to jump over and check it out, ellieswift.com/model. I would encourage you to take a look at the testimonials on the page. Don't just take my word for it. If you are interested, please feel free to reach out. I'm so happy to answer any questions for you, knowing that, you want this to be something that obviously you're interested in as an offer within your business or as something that you really want to do for your whole business. So yeah, would be so happy to answer that. So yeah, that's the overview of the program. It's incredible. It's my best work, other than my masterminds, of course.
I think I think what you're doing is so important, obviously from the mastermind perspective, but I think just like proving that people do want to buy programs on how to deliver well. I think for a while in our industry, it was almost like, oh, nobody would buy on like how to deliver well. They just want to buy on like how to make more money. And obviously the mastermind model helps them make more money, but it's like through that lens. And I think it's just like beautiful to see in our industry, like, oh, people do give a shit. They do want to buy this, as evidenced by like your launches, right? They do want to operate well and with excellence. And I just think that matters so much. So anyway, love you. Love this program. Thank you for this conversation.
So good.
If you guys have questions, I know this was like a really tough time. Feel free to like add them, in the live and tomorrow and answer them too.
Yeah, I'm so happy to do that. Thank you so much for those of you that were here.
Yes, we appreciate you. All right, bye guys.
Thanks, Lace. See ya. Bye.